Tokone Beginner's Guide? That's so helpful.
Left and right directional inputs move your character forward or backward.
Yeah, okay, this is my speed.
Crossover Reflect can be performed by pressing Assist and Light during the opponent's crossover.
Yep. With Donkey Kong Bonanza now freely released unto the world, this week Nintendo hosted their first Nintendo Direct since April. Partner Direct, it might be worth clarifying. And unfortunately, I would like to begin this week by tearing into a sweet little game that hasn't hurt anyone. I mean, look at this. Doesn't this look like a nice, fun little game? Why waste any breath criticizing it? We'll get to the title of the game. I gotta ramp up to it. But basically, I'm just upset. I'm just saying I'm disappointed. It seems like they are doing everything they possibly could to inhibit this game from becoming a success. And on the Square Enix website, Tomoyo Asano of Team Asano says this: goes without saying that we want to deliver this game to all the people who enjoyed the games that we've made previously, Bravely Default, Octopath Traveler, Triangle Strategy, etc. But I would be delighted if it could reach out to a new audience of gamers as well. Emphasis theirs. And I have to say, from this week's presentation, that desire is not apparent. In fact, it looks like they're doing the inverse. It looks like they're making this game as unappealing as possible so that nobody interacts with it. Like somebody bringing a ferret to a party. Let me show you the first bit of knowledge they want to tell you about this game.
Square Enix presents a brand new action RPG brought to life in HD 2D.
Okay, yeah, I kind of gathered that.
This is Philabildia.
One of my most evergreen running bits here on Delayed Input is this one. Welcome to the world of Punwabia. So the bit is not making fun of silly fantasy names. The bit is making fun of how marketing teams choose to need to tell you the name of the fictional world, which doesn't matter, before any actual pertinent information.
You want to hear a story? Have I got a story for you? Kairos.
So why was it so important for us first and foremost to know this is the world of Philabildia? They're even like, yeah, let me show you how to spell that. I'm telling you, people tune out every second. Don't just say Philabildia and assume they're going to stay. And unlike all those other successful and beloved 2D HD Team Asano games, this one has one main playable character, Elliot.
Facing danger is what adventurers do.
Everything is riding on Elliot alone. And as presented, Elliot's nothing. He's a charisma cardboard sandwich. It's like they refuse to tell you anything special about him. The appeal is just meant to be apparent. Of course you would like Elliot. Why wouldn't you? I can't see it. That guy doesn't have star power. I can't see him leading a franchise. And the reason I say franchise and not just a one-off game is the title. The Adventures of Elliot, The Millennium Tales. And if your goal here is really to reach a wider audience, you botched it with that title. That title's doing you no favors. And I think a big part of it is just the name Elliot. It's not a cool name. It's not a fantastical name. Elliot is a regular person's name. It doesn't kind of work in that context. And look, I don't mean to be offensive to any Elliots out there. I'm Kyle. Kyle also would not work in this context. Nobody should put Kyle in their titles. Trust me.
I think Kyle may be connected to a murder.
Kyle XY. All new every Monday at 8, 7 Central.
Anyway, Elliot isn't actually alone.
At his side is a fairy named Faye.
You can call me Faye. I'm a fairy.
These developers need to be aware of how much of their new audience just walked away right there at that spot. And it seems like you see more of Faye than Elliot himself. She's hanging out down there just in case you forgot that your blue butterfly is actually a little girl. Now, Donkey Kong has proven, against all odds, that little barefoot girl companions can work. You just gotta give them something. Here's how the characters are described. A young adventurer named Elliot and his fairy companion Faye. That's destructively boring. Here, let's get Dr. Bossman to spruce this up for you. Okay, how about this? A young, recently divorced adventurer who has a fear of treasure chests named Zeptile, and his lopsided fairy companion who likes to fly into humans' mouths and collect their teeth, Grimple. And then we could name it something like The Adventures of Zeptile. The Millennium of Ranch. I just sold you 200,000 more copies. At the very least, final point on this poor game, here's one of its advertised features. See a crackable wall? Blow it to smithereens with a bomb and you might discover a secret treasure route, a small dungeon you can explore for valuable rewards. What are we doing here? If you want to say Zelda, just say Zelda. It's not that hard. Let me fix this for you. See a slime-encrusted wall? Blow it to smithereens with a rat meat trap, and you might discover a peeping troll's secret stash. A small, dank domicile you can explore for valuable information on the king's enemies. You see what I'm saying? You take these ideas that people are familiar with, that they have some comfort with, and then you expand upon them and mutate them into gross things. So while I was editing this, I realized I really should have given Elliot more credit for, in the Octopath tradition, putting out a demo and then asking for actual feedback from actual people in a survey. So there is a chance that all of the stupid things about this game could improve and disappear. There's reason to have hope. But to get to the real point here, Elliot was part of a back-to-back 2 big final new game announcements at the end of this Nintendo Direct. The other being Octopath Traveler 0. Which again, just from its presentation, seems like the kind of sequel that will dilute its franchise. But that being the finale, the best the third-party partners had to show, I think almost illustrates that the Switch 2, much like the Switch, may become a little brother console. Like, they do have some simultaneous big releases like Chronos and Madden. The realest Madden ever, in fact.
The realest Madden ever.
But then they also have to pretend like the announcement of a port of Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is big news.
Relive iconic Dragon Ball stories from the perspectives of 8 characters, including Goku.
Somehow Star Wars Outlaws had a whole 64 seconds dedicated to it in the middle of the show. I like the game a lot, but it's not hot. It's pretty cold, in fact. Ubisoft kind of already wrote it off as a disappointment. So why would that crusty-looking Outlaws port get more emphasis than something like Borderlands 4, which is actually kind of a big deal? I have to assume it's a bit of Nintendo back-scratching. Would a strangely technical campfire simulator fit better in an indie world than a Nintendo Direct? Yes. Of course, but let's say that maybe you're featuring a unique implementation of the innovative and desirable game chat feature. Yeah, you give people any reason to press that C button, Nintendo might show up and scratch your back. So ultimately what it's coming down to for me is I'm not sure at this point. I wonder how much of this current generation the Switch 2 is going to be capable of participating in. GTA 6 seems unlikely. All right, they might have locked down 10 years of Call of Duty coming up, but I don't think Battlefield 6 is going to happen. Look, Nintendo might have to go an entire console generation without receiving a Witcher 4 port. So in a week when Battlefield 6 is pulling out all the stops, quite expensively mind you, to get the internet's attention.
That's a little small. Can we go a little bigger, a little louder? You know, like Battlefield's supposed to be.
Nintendo, meanwhile, hot off of the best-selling console of all time, and the momentum that brings, seems fairly unconcerned with making a strong case for their console in this upcoming competitive fall season. And, as history has proven, it won't matter. They got this. And that's Delayed Input. I'll be back next week. Until then, thanks for watching. As promised at the end of its campaign reveal trailer last week, Battlefield 6 did have its true debut this week, and I don't mean to belittle the team genuinely working super hard on the campaign itself, but it's just clear from the marketing weight, at least, where EA is putting the emphasis. They basically held their own classic E3 press conference for just the multiplayer gameplay reveal. They invited hundreds of press and streamers to be there for this event. By the way, this shot is actually really impressive. This stuff isn't easy, actually. That's pretty cool. And obviously, I'm not a Battlefield expert, so most of my observations are going to be marketing-oriented. But here's a few things that stood out to me. All right, firstly, every shot they show of this game is wild because there's always at least 2 or 3 people around the camera at all times. The way it's presented, the player is never alone. These are big maps, they're huge, but at the same time, there will always be at least 2 bad guys right in front of you at all times. And also, the multiplayer trailer is indeed extremely different from the campaign trailer. Right, last week I said a common trait of Battlefield trailers for the last 10 plus years is epic seriousness and drums and buzzing. The show had a lot of drums and buzzing. But I was fairly surprised that the multiplayer trailer was slightly less epically serious. They even basically recreate some shots from the campaign trailer, but they have completely different energy. And I think a large part of that is because of the song choice. They went with Limp Bizkit's Break Stuff, or, crazy remix of it. And that song, I mean, it's not a good song. It is an all-timer music video. This holds up. But Break Stuff was chosen not because Limp Bizkit is cool, but because in that song, Fred Durst is demanding of us that we give him something to break. The multiplayer trailer is laser focused on destruction, breaking stuff. I'm not sure 5 seconds goes by without some sort of wall collapsing.
And of course, Battlefield isn't Battlefield without destruction.
Yeah, that's apparent. They nailed that. There was a really funny moment in this trailer that I was really impressed by the first time I saw it. Did you see that spring? Right there? That's a cool explosion. Upon repeated viewing, you do come to realize there's a lot of springs. One of these was bound to pop off. So as this was the multiplayer reveal event, there was not a lot said about the campaign, which is fair, right? So something I was surprised by is that the second video package, meaning the one right after that multiplayer trailer, was set up like this.
Let's take a deeper look at the world you'll be fighting in.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's kind of strange that they go into the whole plot setup as if it's important to the multiplayer. Basically, the lore behind these multiplayer maps. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's just interesting they chose to emphasize it so much.
Welcome to the world of
Billibildia,